What's up YouTube, Daryl here from Zephyr War Games, back with another DarkWorld. I know I wasn't going to play this, but a couple of cards turned up and I was like, okay, I have to give this a run out. It ended up getting me second place, so not as good as first place, but it still did incredibly well. And I pretty much just lost to Exo Sisters because they just opened up D-Fissure and D-Shifters. I was like, yeah, cool, I'm not going to be able to play through that, even when trying to make Baguska. Anyway, I'm going to take you through the list. I'll explain the rest of my matchups as I go. I'll explain the ratios, and then I'll show you the extra special spice in the main deck. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. I promise it won't be as DarkWorld heavy as it has been, unless you guys want to see that, and then it will be. But we start off with free is triple, Fabled Raven, all secret rare finally, which kind of pushed me to play it. I was like, oh, okay, they look so good, I have to. This card was so good. Like, there was just so many cards that gave me level manipulation. I had adaptations to defense, to burn, and for a full-on aggression towers that my opponent just couldn't really deal with. So, spoiler, I'll actually show you the synchros I played for this one, because I only played 3. So, I played a very high-level aggressor in the form of Psychic M Punisher. I then played the one defensive of Baron de Fleur, and then I also played the one Scarlight. Now, obviously, a lot of people were like, well, you could have been playing Savage or anything like that. The reason I went with Scarlight is because it's a level 8, and this is a surprise as well. It did incredibly well with Coach King Giant Trainer. So, turn 0, the way it works is if you get a rainbow on the board that's buffed by the field spell, Scarlight can't destroy it, because Scarlight will only destroy cards that are 3,000 or less, so equal to its attack. So the way it was is I had 2 level 8s on the board already. I would fill my board up, then use Scarlight. Scarlight would nuke the board, burning my opponent for however much. Either I've burnt my own cards or burning my opponent's cards. And then I would still have a rainbow plus a Scarlight. I was then able to bounce the rainbow back to the hand for a Greffer, and then get the option of getting like another DarkWorld to the board, and then another rainbow to the board to bring it back. And then went into Giant Trainer to burn for an additional 2,400. It wasn't nice, but it actually burns for a heck of a lot of damage. So it just made it very, very difficult for an opponent to even try to come back from, or even try to play through. So that's kind of like a little engine. Not the nicest of engines, but really, really cool. And it was just something I wanted to try out because I had the 3 Fabled Ravens. Then everything else is pretty standard. I'm not going to talk about these too much. Rainbows, Gentas, Graphers, Snows, all standard on that one. Same again for Silver and Gold. 1 Beige on this time and 1 Cerulli. So obviously these are all pretty standard. The only one that I've added for this version is Beige. And that's purely because Fabled Raven discard 2 DarkWorlds. One of them being a Beige gives me instant access to Scarlight. If I then discard more cards, I'm then just guaranteeing that I'm going to get an additional DarkWorld on the board. Not to mention that Fabled Raven discard 1 in the form of Beige, and then having a Rainbow or a Greffer in the graveyard can instantly give me Psychic M Punisher. So it gives you ways to play around with it, which is really, really nice, because then you bounce the Beige back to the hand, and it's just guaranteed to get you a DarkWorld on the board to manipulate the level of being a 4 or an 8, and it works really, really well. Another one that worked out really well is obviously Fenrir. Like, literally, a special summon of Fenrir, then a normal summon of Raven, discard the copy of Fenrir I've just searched out, gives me instant access to a level 10 being Baron de Fleur. Now, obviously, another level 10 option you do have is the Sovereign. That's entirely up to you. I went with Psychic M Punisher because I was hoping that a lot of cards weren't going to get banished. And just having a Towers like Psychic M Punisher was just so much more difficult for my opponent to deal with. It worked a treat. Now, I will say something about Cerulli while we've got this. So a lot of people kind of misunderstand this. The way Cerulli works is it will special summon no matter how it is discarded. So it will always go to your opponent's side of the board. The only way that it will discard from your hand when it goes to your opponent's side of the board is if it is special summoned via a DarkWorld effect. So it can be discarded by any ways possible, and as long as it is summoned by a DarkWorld effect, it will make the opposing player discard a card. Now, obviously, it is a DarkWorld effect itself to summon itself back. What it was is it's to kind of stop ways of being able to go, so like additional hand loops. So Monster Reborn, bring this back effect, rip one from the hand. Nah. Doesn't work that way. It has to come back via the effect of a DarkWorld. But some people have been confused that it needs to be discarded via a DarkWorld effect. That's not the case. It just needs to be discarded by any effect, and then it has to come back via a DarkWorld effect in order to discard from your opposing player's hand. So keep that in mind. Discard this with anything, Muttrakar, Dangers, anything like that. It will still go to your opponent's board because it uses its own effect in the graveyard to summon itself back. Speaking of the dangers, I actually limited my dangers down. So I went with double Nessie, one Bigfoot, one Thunderbird, one Jackalope, one Snake, one Mothman. Now I know you lot are going to be like, whoa, 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 why have you cut that down? Well, exactly like a lot of you have been saying to me, you hate the RNG factor of dangers. And I completely agree with you. The RNG factor of dangers sucks. Because it's never a guarantee. I don't go reveal Mothman and I know 100% of the time I'm going to discard the exact card I want to discard and then this will summon and draw me a card. Not going to happen. So what I did was I actually added some spice into it. Now I take no credit on the spice and I do apologise massively because I couldn't find their comment on one of the previous DarkWorld's videos, but they actually suggested this. I was like, right, okay, I'll have a look into it. And it's a very, very old card that works extremely well. And I'll show you when we get to the spells. So the last monster we play is the one Zephyros. Now this is even more consistent in this version because of this new spell that I've added in, and it works really, really well. So I've got ways of getting Fable to discard it, obviously the risk of a danger to discard it, and then the new card. You'll also notice that I don't play Salamander in this version. I probably should play Salamander in here, I just couldn't find the right spaces to cut for the dangers. If you don't have Fenris, they can very easily be cut for the catalyzers, and arguably I probably should be playing Catalyzer in here. I just last minute kind of change and switch around of the deck meant that I didn't play it. But it's definitely something to look into because literally straight away, Fabled Raven discard 1 plus Catalyzer discard beige gives you again a route into Psychic End Punisher. But apart from getting into Psychic End Punisher or trying to use all 3 materials to get into a level 10 without using Fabled Raven's discard effect, which is a little bit of a waste, it didn't really provide me with what I was trying to push for the deck. But it's definitely something I'll continue to test out and change up, just to kind of see how it works in that way. So that's it for the monster lineup. As you can see, a lot heavier, well, pretty standard on their monster lineup. The only new addition does really come in the spell zone. So again, pretty straightforward on this one. 2 Gate, 2 Ascension, 2 Allure, 2 Archive, oh sorry, not 2 Archives, 1 Archives, 1 Charge into Darkness. Now again, this was suggested to me, I put it in my budget version. Someone mentioned main decking Puppetry, and the reason I've actually got this instead of Puppetry is because this is just generally out and out more consistent. So again, target a level 4 or lower Fiend in the graveyard, obviously you're always going to be, well, it doesn't always need to be, because you can also target your Fabled Raven off of this, which can be really, really good, because then it means you can do 2 Synchro plays in a turn, not without having a special summon through Sarudra as well. So it gives you a lot of options. And again, it was just another one of them ones where if I've already Fabled Raven, Synchroed, and then activated a danger successfully, and my danger has drawn me into this, for example, I can activate this to target the Fable in the graveyard, discard a Fiend, summon the Fable back, and then trigger the Fiend's effect. And it was just a way of going from like Snow to Ceruli and then guaranteeing that I could discard that Ceruli unless my opponent stopped the Fabled. So there's a lot of ways to play around with it, which is kind of cool. And then the penultimate card is 2 Triple Tactics, and the extra spice is a very old card from Metal Raiders, and that is of course the Cheerful Coffin. Now you probably wouldn't have guessed what this was because I used the artwork for the thumbnail, but Cheerful Coffin is very, very old text, so you're going to have to bear with me on this one. So you discard up to 3 monster cards from your hand to the graveyard. There is no punctuation whatsoever, which means there is no cost entitled to that. So you activate Cheerful Coffin, your opponent goes, how do I stop this? And they really can't, because you don't draw, you don't do anything. All it allows you to do is discard up to 3 monsters, which will then allow you to trigger a certain chain of events. It's not hard once per turn. So if I was to activate Cheerful Coffin and discard, let's say, a Danger plus a Snow plus a Rainbow, I can then build my chain as I see fit. And unless my opponent's got something like a Call by the Grave or a way to kind of interrupt that chain in some form of another, I can always protect what I want to do. Now, obviously, keeping in mind that the dangers will always, if they're mandatory, will always be the lower chains. So it will be like Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, and then the danger will always be the Chainlink 3, which at the end of the day is not the end of the world, because something like Bigfoot is going to pop a card, which if you haven't got a card to pop, you're not going to do it. Same with Thunderbird. So you want to be using Nessie to search her out of danger for a follow-up. You want to be using Mothman for the draw and discard. And then you also want to be able to use your Jackalope or your Snake to summon or special from the deck. So it worked really, really well because it just gave me another way of actually controlling exactly what I wanted to discard. Now, it's not discard as many, it's not discard exactly. It is so good that it's up to, because it means if I just want to go Cheerful Coffin and discard 1, I can do so. So it means I could guarantee to get this in the graveyard. It's like a designated danger. Like I know exactly what I want to discard. I know exactly how I want to do it. And because there's no cost involved to it, it will trigger all of the DarkWorlds, which is really, really kind of cool. Unless they update the text on this and then boom, that all goes out the window. But for now, it's just a really kind of cool card. I think I paid like £2.50 for a playset. So it was definitely worth playing to kind of test around with it. And like I said, I didn't come up with this. Someone mentioned it in one of my comments on a previous video. So apologies, I couldn't find the comment to get your exact tag name. But if that was you, then please, by all means, comment in this video below. And I will also give you a shout out for the next video and everything. Give you the credit on that one. So yeah. Moving on to the extra deck. So I'll go over, obviously, the Synchros that I've done before. So your Psychic Game Punisher, your Baron, and your Starlight. And then your XYZs of Coach King. And then I just had one spot left. And I was like, do I go for Zombie Stein? Do I go for, like, what do I go for? And I wanted to play another rank 8. So I went with the Hope Harbinger as a last minute addition. I didn't really ever summon it. But it was just one of them times where it was like, right, okay. I think the one time I did summon it wasn't so bad. Because people forget about its Redeclare attack. So my opponent was like, okay, I'm just going to go kill this lower level monster or lower attack monster. And I went, no, cool. Redirect to Hope Harbinger. And they killed themselves. So that was kind of cool. But other than that, it's rare that I used it. For the other XYZs, we do play the standard rank 4s on this. Everything else, pretty much. Baguska, Daenerys, and Abyss Dweller. This put in so much work against the tier element matchup. You know what it does. Never got the chance to make this when I needed to in the shifter matchups, which sucked a little bit. 2 of the Graphic Fusions, pretty straightforward and simple on that one. And then for the links, I had to cut these down for the Synchros. So you've got the Muttrucker, the Sheep, Appaloosa, Zelantis, and Skuldred. Now, obviously, I've kept these in here because I still really, really like this combo. Obviously, it's a little bit more risky. I mean, it's not the end of the world because technically, if I leave Fabled Raven on the board, I can use this effect to discard a Fiend to set up a play and then use Zelantis to banish the board, bring it all back, and then my Fabled Raven can be used again because it's a soft once per turn. So as long as I've got the discards there, I can actually fill up my graveyard with all of the Fiends for like your Rainbows and your Greffers and then bounce them all back. Cross You actually puts in a little bit more work this time. Because you've got XYZs and you've got Synchros, you actually have the ability to buff and debuff your monsters and your opponent's monsters by 700 and also bring back another monster from the graveyard. So the best thing about this is Sheep can obviously loop back your Fabled Ravens as well as looping back your lower levels for your Synchro plays, Synchro climbs, XYZ plays, everything like that. So it worked out really, really well for me. There's a couple of things I would change. Like I might actually add in Catalyzer. I'm not set on the exact Synchros I've chosen. Like, the Psychic Game Punisher put in a huge amount of work because people were just not expecting it. They were like, oh, DarkWorld's cool. I'm waiting for a Saruja. I'm waiting for an Access Code. I'm waiting for, like, a big boss monster. And then I just go, normal summon Raven. And like, what? Raven's effect. Okay, cool. Oh, you've got, like, a level 10 on the board. Or, oh, he's discarded one more. Maybe he's going to go into Link. And you just go, okay, I'm going to go into Psychic Game Punisher. And they're like, what? Huh? And he was just a Mac Daddy. Absolute boss of a monster. So yeah, that was pretty much it. Did very, very well. So my only loss, like I said at the start, was to Exo Sisters. Well, D-Shifter and D-Fissure. God, they suck so much. And then, of course, Sprites, Tier Element of Shiju, fine. Puppetry put in work on that one as well. And yeah, and then the last one was Dino. I was like, what? What is going on? So that was tricky, but I was able to deal with that because I think they just kind of bricked one of the games and I was able to like see it through with what I had. They couldn't get to consistent UCT access and everything else. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. If you do have any questions on this at all, please, by all means, put them in the comments down below. I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. But I'm now going to try and slow down on the DarkWorld content for you guys because I know it was getting a little bit overwhelming. I will do like one every other day or something like that as long as you guys still want to see it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. As absolutely always, guys, stay safe. And of course, happy dueling.